Hey everyone, Thyworm here and welcome to my first hero guide. I'll be making a series where we cover the heroes, what to focus on, skill rotations, abilities, that kind of thing. Heroes are evolving and when those changes are significant, I will update this content with a new video. This episode covers one of my favorite heroes, Istok. Istok is a grumpy dwarf, awakened by the new demonic invasion. He was actually meditating in the mountains and now he has to keep a bunch of hellspawn in check. Istok is pretty much your classic sword and board character, although he has a mace. This old dwarf can be played aggressively by focusing on DPS, but mostly he is designed as a tank. In terms of itemization, get him a bunch of fortitude and armor, if you want to tank that is, and after that physical damage, attack damage and strength in that order. Oh yeah, and don't forget those elemental resistances, but that should go without saying really. His passive ability is gaining static charges, indicated over here. The more you have, the more damage you do. Keeping an eye on these is useful for some abilities as well. Left mouse button is a 3 combo attack. It gives you some mana and reduces the cooldown on your shield, the shift ability. Right mouse button is a big frontal cone lightning attack, slowing enemies down. Mostly though, this skill generates a ton of mana and should be used a lot to keep your resources up and running. Shift is Istok's ethereal shield. It protects Istok, it protects your allies as well as their pet. It makes you immune to stun, which is kinda nice, and it is the only way to generate static charges. Every incoming attack that hits you while you have your shield up generates static charges. The harder the hit, the more charges you generate, and like I mentioned, the more charges you have, the more damage you do. Middle mouse button is the mace throw ability. The range on this is pretty huge. It stuns all enemies it hits, making it a good crowd control tool, and it can be used to finish off remote enemies relatively quickly. Istok is pretty slow, he has no gap closers like the other heroes do, so the mace throw is the best we have on him. Taunt, your E, is exactly that, a taunt. Everyone will attack you, basically. Space, called overpower, is the main way to sustain on Istok. The tank makes a 360 and every enemy hit restores some health to Istok. If enemies are taunted, you restore even more health. Thunder Fist, your F ability, is what I would call your ultimate ability. It does massive amounts of physical damage and also consumes 50 static charges for another 50% additional damage. This thing can hit like a truck, especially when it crits, completely wiping out a group of enemies. You're the tank, so you want to grab aggro ASAP. There are also a few other things to consider, however, such as sustain, mana and static charges. Generally, you should walk into a bunch of enemies, activate your taunt, E, and then activate your shield, shift. Enemies start hitting you and you generate static charges. Keep using right mouse button to keep that mana at healthy levels. Once you have close to 50 static charges, don't forget to use the F ability for a huge damage boost. This works particularly well on bosses. 800% physical damage is no joke, even if you are a tank. If your health gets low, taunt and use space. If you or your buddies are in trouble, you can always use middle mouse button to stun the monsters, then grab them again with taunt and use shields to protect you and your allies. Even though you could focus on doing DPS, I mainly enjoy Istok as a tank. That's also how he is designed, so I'm going to focus on that for this video. I take additional damage on the mace throw and reduce cooldown. If you use right mouse button correctly, you won't run out of mana. And I would rather use my stun ability more often with a shorter stun than use it less with a longer stun. A short stun can be a lifesaver, so I prefer that. With taunt, I'd suggest increased range and reduced cooldown. Mana is not a problem for me, like I mentioned, and I want to taunt as often as I can, being the tank. I would take the reduced resource cost, because if you need to use this ability, you don't want to be out of mana. Also, the increased healing is really nice, especially on groups. This really adds up because it is percentage healing. It works no matter how much health you have, making this a great choice. Ultimately, your F ability, I use this mainly for damage, so I'm picking perk points that do additional damage. Once again, I have plenty of resources, although minus 20 is significant and you could pick that if you run out of mana for some reason. The 200% bonus damage is just too much to pass up on, I feel. That's it. This was my bite-sized hero guide. More are in the making. Subscribe to the channel guys and hit that bell icon so you know when those are released. I'm streaming Monday, Wednesday and Friday on twitch.tv/Thyworm, 8 PM Central European Time. Join me live for more tips and tricks, and finally I'm also on Twitter, tweeting about games, my life, that kind of thing. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon guys. Bye bye.